This is gonna be a fun video, because I love when stuff like this comes out. It gets revealed because we get to see a little bit behind, who's behind some of these Twitter spats we get into, with liberals. And this guy, Brooklyn Dad Defiant, he's one of those mainstream, like super hard, over the top resistance liberals on Twitter. He's one of those people that like constantly posts every single Donald Trump tweet. You'll see him like one of the first few replies, almost as if they have like an auto reply feature. Like their whole worldview begins and ends with Trump being bad. And so a lot of them are, the grift is kind of over at this point, because Biden is in office. But as we're going to see, that grift is one that is, it pays quite well. And so, he got outed. Brooklyn Dad got outed as being a paid bot on Twitter. And he was paid by this super PAC you can see here called Really American PAC. And this is all from like, what is it, September through January. So September of 20, so right in the middle of the primary. Or I guess this was before the election. I'm sure this is just from like the end of the primary or the end of the general, but I'm sure he was getting paid, probably getting paid during the primary as well, because he's one of those guys that was like constantly against Bernie until Bernie dropped out. Then all of a sudden Bernie was good. It's like, listen to Bernie because Bernie's endorsing Biden. So all of a sudden it's listen to Bernie, but before it was, no, we hate Bernie. So, we'll go through some of the tweets because I just want to show y'all like what it's like having to deal with these people on Twitter. And you're almost like, there's no way this person actually believes this, right? They have to be getting paid to do this. And it turns out when it came to Brooklyn Dad Defiant, that's exactly what was going on. So let's take a look at some of his greatest hits. Some of his greatest hits on Twitter. Some of the ones I could find. I'm sure there's plenty more. But this one, he says, I got to disagree with Bernie on super PACs. The Trump campaign has been building a war chest for the past 3 years. You can't beat Trump's with hopes and wish. There's a few things funny about that. One, of course he disagrees with Bernie on super PAC. He was getting paid by one handsomely, almost $60,000 in like 4 or 5 months. He got paid by this PAC to shitpost online, denigrate actual progressives fighting for real change, and prop up the establishment like Joe Biden and act like, he is so much better than Trump. How can you not be seeing it? Why are you even criticizing him? We need to get Trump out, and that's the only thing that matters. We don't need to push for any other reforms. Just get Biden in there. That's the type of resistance liberal he is. And he says you can't beat Trump with hopes and wishes. But, I mean, that's mostly what Joe Biden's platform was. Even the very progressive things he put in his platform, like $15 minimum wage, he's already backtracked on. He's not even fighting for that. He also said, let's see. I mean, there's just so many. There's so many good ones. I had to pick a few. He said, I have no more goddamn patience for these news nitwits who are ignoring mountains of Trump scandals and using Russian disinfo to smear the only decent man running. He's talking about Joe Biden. It is infuriating, dishonest, and stupid. Do better, damn it. And it's always funny to watch this as if the media was not 100% behind Joe Biden. Like the media didn't spend 3 whole years researching and trying to find different angles and talking about Trump and, oh, this is the end. The walls are closing in. And now he's saying they're ignoring his scandals. What do you mean? They reported on it endlessly. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for years they were reporting on this. And he's acting like they probably said one bad thing about Joe Biden and he's going fucking crazy over it. It's just hilarious. So yeah, don't listen to people like this. That, like, when you see people like this on Twitter, like, they probably literally are paid trolls. And it's so funny because it's always projection too. It's always projection. Like when we're like, oh, we are doing this over there because we support freedom and we want freedom and we want, well, you're free to buy a bunch of different brands of cereal all owned by the same damn company. But you still have to work paycheck to paycheck. Oh, and of course your healthcare is tied to your job. So you can't quit that job, or if you get sick, you might die. So we just enjoy our freedom so much here. And so it's always projection. When they say, oh, you must be a Russian troll bot because you're out here actually fighting, for things that the American people want, like Medicare for all, like free public college, like to end the wars, like for a $15 minimum wage, they smear you as some type of bot because you're fighting for these things. When in reality, they're actually getting paid by super PACs that pay them to prop up the establishment and defend them at all costs. So, I mean, he has his liberal defenders on Twitter, of course, that will always, come to his aid. Like this guy, Scott Dworkin, he says, I fully support BrooklynDad. I'm glad he gets paid for his job. He's a true patriot and defender of our democracy. He trudged with me and countless others in the mud for years. He stood up when others wouldn't, when it mattered most. I'm beyond thankful for his tireless work. The work he got paid for by tweet. He got paid every single tweet to, when it mattered most, he stood up for people. Really? Is he standing up for the millions and millions of people who would benefit from this $15 minimum wage? Is he standing up for them? Is he pressuring the Democrats to put that in the bill? No, of course not. He's not doing that. Of course not. Because there's no money in that. So these are the real grifters. That's what we're finding out. These are the real grifters. And, I like what Socialist MMA on Twitter says. Shout out to all the liberals who follow BrooklynDad and Lincoln Project, who smeared me as a grifter despite just being a poor black man just sharing his thoughts. Yep. Don't worry, Nick. It's all projection. So whenever they're trying to smear you with something, you better believe that they're probably doing that very thing they're smearing you as. Oh, they smear you as a grifter? Turns out they're grifting, getting paid to shit on you on Twitter, and getting paid for it handsomely. And this, what Catherine Rose Fisher said on Twitter, I love this too. BrooklynDad, who spent the past few years insisting that Russian bots were being paid to sow division and influence our elections on Twitter, was being paid by a PAC to sow division and influence our elections on Twitter. Precisely. I'm so glad this was exposed. I'm so glad this came out, because this is exactly what they've been doing. Not just for the past 2 years. They've been doing this since Bernie ran. The whole idea was the Bernie bros, right? Some of the Bernie bros were just angry young white males on Twitter yelling about things like Medicare for all and free college, yelling about these things that are so not feasible, even though the rest of the world has some form or version of single-payer healthcare. But they're just screaming. They're just angry young white males that are just mad about it, even though Bernie has like the biggest, most diverse coalition, other people that were running. But they always just smear you. And they say, oh, you must be sowing division because you want, rational things like Medicare for all and public college, $15 minimum wage. When in reality, that's exactly what they are doing. They're sowing division, making it seem like, oh, it's just the Republicans, it's just Trump that's bad. It's not the Democrats. The Democrats are all good, and they're for good things, and they want good things, and they say good things, so they must be good. And the Republicans, they must just be bad. Oh, and those Bernie people, oh, it's just a small coalition of young white males, Bernie bros, who are angry online. Just incredible. So I'm really glad this came out. I just wanted to do a fun video for y'all. It's always projected.